They remain about how this war ends and what comes next in the region.
Joining us now is Barbara Slavin, a distinguished fellow at the Stimson Center and lecturer at George Washington University. So good to have you with us today. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I wanted to start with, if you had to put this in a nutshell, what was the single most important takeaway from the speech we saw last night?
Well, I'm afraid I've learned since Donald Trump went into politics to not always pay attention to what he says, but simply watch what he does. And the United States is moving more military forces into the region, which suggests that this war is going to escalate further before the U.S. finds a way to extricate itself. He did have that horrible reference to bombing Iran into the Stone Age. And maybe some of your viewers out there who are as old as I am can remember General Curtis LeMay threatening to bomb North Vietnam into the Stone Age back during the Vietnam War. And of course, we know how that ended. It ended with the United States pulling out. It seems that the Trump administration went into this war without a clear idea of what it really could achieve. There were hopes of regime change, which I think were always very unrealistic. And now it's looking to salvage the conflict. But the damage that has been done is so extreme. And of course, we're in a worse situation because the Strait of Hormuz is now blocked by the Iranians. So I don't know how Donald Trump will spin it. I'm sure he will find some way to spin this. But it's not looking any more promising to me now than it was yesterday.
That big message there, based on what the president said, that we could see an end to this very shortly. What you said is pay attention to what actually happened. So how realistic is a timeline of just spending several or a couple more weeks in Iran?
Well, certainly the United States and Israel can do more damage, and they are doing more damage. Just this morning, apparently, the Pasteur Institute in Tehran was bombed. The Israelis have bombed a pharmaceutical plant. I mean, what is the point of this war? Initially, there was some talk about helping the Iranian people and liberating them, but instead, we're going to leave an Iran that is absolutely broken and destitute. Now, it won't be much of a threat, perhaps. Or perhaps it will, because it still holds on to the Strait of Hormuz and it's going to need revenue to try to rebuild after all this damage. I think this war was a reckless gamble, and it's not going to pay off for anyone.
I was thinking, Americans, of course, been waiting for the president, who's commander in chief, to address the nation, to talk about why indeed we are in this war, to your point. And I wanted to build on that because we also heard the president last night warning that the U.S. could strike Iran's power grid within weeks. When you consider how powerful of an escalation this could be, I also wanted to bring in Tehran into this equation and what devastation this could mean for the population there. What do you make of comments like that?
Again, I'm not really sure what the aim is now, except to bomb whatever you can bomb. I mean, this is more an Israeli kind of action than it's typically been an American one. Bombing civilian institutions, universities, pharmaceutical plants. If we go toward power plants, I mean, how is that helping the Iranian people? The reality with regimes like this is that those who are in power, the elite, manage to monopolize all the resources for themselves. So the less resources there are, the less there will be for ordinary people, and the more there will be for the elite. Also, this notion of killing more and more regime figures is not going to resolve the issue. This is a complicated system. It's been in power for half a century. And the US and Israel can kill 1,000 top Iranian leaders, and there'll be 1,000 more that will step up to take their place. That's the other thing I find very upsetting, that Donald Trump claims there's been some sort of regime change when all that we've done is actually led to the promotion of people who are even more hardline than the ones that were killed in some cases, and less capable of negotiating a way out of this.
Barbara, in the time that I hate to cut you off. In the time that we have left, a big point that we were, I think, all waiting to hear about was NATO. Threats had been made earlier in the day, in fact, about our position in NATO. Would we remain in this alliance? How significant, in your opinion, and please feel free to continue the thought that I interrupted, I do apologize, but how significant is that omission given his threats to leave the alliance?
Yeah, again, I my understanding is that he can't just snap his fingers and leave NATO. I think Congress would actually have to do something about it because there was legislation that was passed explicitly to guarantee that the US remains in NATO as long as Congress decides. Also, he's going to need help from Britain, France, others when this war is over, and I think he knows that.
Yeah, you said it. We're unclear on what ground troops in Iran look like at this point, what NATO looks like at this point, our alliance. There's so many different moving pieces to this. Barbara Slavin, a distinguished fellow at the Stimson Center and lecturer at George Washington University. Thank you for your time, your insight, and the conversation.
Sure, thank you.